Hello and welcome to this overview of my Blackmagic Pocket cinema camera. I'm late to the party with this particular camera. I've not been that interested in them and never seen a need to it, but I decided to make a journey into this particular way of shooting just to gain some experience in that process, and also to encourage myself to use the DaVinci Resolve software, which comes free. The studio version comes free with this particular camera, and so it was a double-edged kind of push for me to get into that. I've gone for the 4K because I think as a camera it seems to have a really good press out there. Let me just show you this camera here. There's its configuration at the moment. The configuration I've got at the moment is it's actually just got a standard 50mm Canon lens on there with the Viltrox adapter here. Not the best adapter, but it suits my needs. I don't wish to go any more sophisticated than that. There is another adapter which is the de facto in the marketplace. It's got the SmallRig cage. SmallRig cage is very useful because it has a multiplicity of settings on the plate. You can go in with all the mini kind of cheese plates and configure it how you want. On the bottom I've actually got a quick release for my tripod. I've actually got mounted here a wireless Go on there, which is a Rode Wireless Go 2. I've got the three forms of storage on here. I've got an SSD and an SD and a CFast card. The CFast card and the SD are placed internally to the side here, and the SSD externally. Now, in order to support the SD, I've gone for what I think is probably the best for this particular SSD. The T5 I think has a different bracket for this, but this one is a pretty substantive bracket. As you can see, there's it's clamped here, sprung loaded clamp either side, and then there's also a clamp on here. Let me show you a close-up of that, which I think might help. So I would bring this over here. You can see here how well this works. It's actually clamped on here fairly tightly with this screw, and then this is also clamped, and then I've got a lead going down here into this device here, which is what I would term as a sacrificial USB-C and HDMI connector, because one of the flaws with most of the modern cameras is that the HDMI and the USB connections mechanically can be problematic, and also in terms of electrically can be problematic. So I like to have a nice sacrificial one here. This thing here, which is I will leave a link to that, and I'll show a photograph when I come to edit this video of what it looks like. Now let me just demonstrate what I think is the big advantage of this with this SSD mounting. I can unplug this by simply just pulling it out here, and you can see the way these are sprung loaded here. What's nice about that is it comes out nice and neatly, but this is totally locked down here, which means when I come to put it back on, and I do need to lean over to do this just to make sure I've got the line of hole, you can see how easily and quickly I'm able to relocate that, because this is fixed, and obviously this is slid on the base of the clamp, so it's very easy to add and remove. I've got a nice short lead into this. Now let me talk about this thing here. This USB-C HDMI adapter allows me to place into the camera and leave them permanently in there without having to plug them in and out, both the HDMI and the HDMI, which is this one, and the USB-C there, which means if anything's going to go wrong, it's going to go here or this, and I can change it. And so I minimize the amount of time I'm actually engaging in unplugging and plugging into the camera, which I think is quite useful. So that's all I want to cover. I think that's all I want to cover for that now. One of the big disadvantages of these cameras is that in order to configure them, you have to add little bits and pieces to it, and once you add all the little bits and pieces to make it functional in the way you want it to work, as it were, it can become expensive. And from the bottom end of which, this is one of the bottom end sort of cinematographic cameras, Once you have to add the lens, an adapter, speed booster, or whatever, if you're not using the native lens for this, then it can really add up to a significant amount, and sometimes the cost of putting the bits and pieces onto the camera is greater than the camera itself. Certainly at the bottom end it will be, and at the top end, when you're putting true cinematographic lenses on there, then you really are into the domain of multi-thousands, many tens of thousands, which is outside the scope of my ability. I've started the journey on this and I'm enjoying it because it's one of the distinctive things going from using a conventional photographic camera like the one I'm using. I'm talking now to the Canon EOS R, and one of the big advantages of this is the ability in this to actually get to the domain where you've got a wide range of gamut that you can play with. So you've got the ability to go edit there, and there's a lot of leverage and leeway in there for editing, for getting the best out of your color science. I mean, you can do that now with some of the modern cameras as well too, but it's a journey I've not gone on yet, and it's a journey that I'm enjoyable. I've gone down the rabbit hole of color theory and editing in color and colorization via the DaVinci Resolve software, and so that's part of my learning curve at the moment, and I'm in the process of doing that. And that's it. That's all I want to talk about. If you've stayed to the end of this video, thanks for staying. I hope it's been useful. I'll put some links and details about the bits and pieces that I've got on the camera, and hopefully that's useful to some people who are on a similar journey to me. And I guess there's many tens, if not thousands, tens of thousands of people who are well ahead of the game, as it were, and I hope my experience has been useful. So thanks once again, and you take care of yourselves, and bye for now.